Welcome back to the LEC Summer Final, and guys, what a game one we had on our hands. 7 kills in the first 3 minutes, 30-odd kills in the entire game. How are you feeling after that?
Woo! I am so excited! This is what I wanted to see from our final between G2 and Fnatic. And you know that after a defeat like that, G2 is going to be feeling the fire. They do not crumble under the pressure. They always look to bounce back, which means G2 will adapt, they will make changes, and we're going to have an even more exciting game too.
I mean, you say that they will adapt and they will make changes, but we are having the same side selection. Again, it is going to be G2 on the blue side, Fnatic on that red side, and so we could actually have a run back of the same draft. So I'm curious, what is going to be the priority pick for G2? Is it going to be another Rakan ban into a first pick Pyke, or will they start to take something like the Akali, the Sylas, or even the Xayah up in priority?
I think that's the big question, especially since the Pyke priority did not work for them in game one. Also, we have to wonder if Fnatic have something else in their back pocket. They've shown that they can 1-3-1, they can play a very strong early game, but have they prepared something else over the last week?
Well, that's what's on our mind. Right now, Fnatic, they sit in a comfortable position with a strong game one performance. And I think what impressed me the most with how every single time a fight happened, Fnatic was willing to challenge them. They answered them, and you need that to play against G2 because we've been talking about it all split long. This team will fight you, and even if they're at a deficit, they will continue to fight you. So you have to be willing to be just as proactive as them, and Fnatic do it beautifully.
But the difference is, what do you get for the fights? And that's where the breaking point of the game was. Every single time Fnatic won those fights, it transitioned into something else. Like you said, Fnatic were fighting for the objectives, where G2 were fighting for the pressure.
As you said, Vedius, G2 are on the blue side. Oh, sorry, Frosk. G2 are on the blue side once again, and it's an Aatrox ban away by G2. Immediately, Fnatic say, we'll get rid of the Yuumi, and G2 say, okay, Twisted Fate is no more in this game.
Yeah, and just to speed run, if everything stays the same, these last bans would be the likes of the Qiyana and the Rakan. So far, the exact same run back of the game one draft.
So we're likely going to be seeing, as you rightly said, the Qiyana. If G2 were to make any pivots, I think they could consider banning away the Akali, or they could look to ban away the Pyke for themselves. Unless they believe that they have an answer to Pyke of their own, there are a lot of options available to G2 Esports, but they're going to keep it the same. They're going to ban away the Rakan. This to me suggests that Akali or Sylas has to be higher on the priority list for G2 Esports.
So it's the same bans as game one. G2 here looking at that Akali or the Sylas. Immediately they go towards the Sylas.
Yeah, and there's just more power in Sylas in terms of his flexibility. It also then denies a lot of the other power picks that are left open because Sylas can use their power against them. So I don't mind the Sylas priority over the likes of that Akali and the Pyke.
I do think, though, that Fnatic will just look to lock in the Akali and the Xayah right now. It's a tried and true strategy for them. It's something that they're very comfortable on. And I think that you can still flex the Akali. So if you do not want to play it into the Sylas, then you can move it between top lane and the mid lane as well.
And then you are expecting that if the Xayah does get locked in, that you're probably going to see the Xayah Rakan, or excuse me, not the Rakan, it is banned away. Lost my point.
We could very well
I was really excited. I was like, Xayah Rakan, it'll be amazing.
Xayah Nautilus is a high probability of coming through. It's not something that Hylissang puts a high priority on, but instead it looks like Fnatic are going to prioritize the jungle pick with the Gragas.
With the likes of Gragas, it does now mean that you don't have to take the Xayah. Kai'Sa becomes that more valuable because of the synergy between these champions. Gragas' ultimate as well as the Kai'Sa ultimate. And while that is most likely Broxah's champion, Hilly can also take that as a very aggressive kill-oriented 2v2.
And we'll see how G2 want to respond to it. They're going to lock in the Thresh for Mikyx alongside the Kai'Sa you were talking about, Frost. So you expect Fnatic now to look towards that Xayah.
Last time we did see the Thresh Kai'Sa, it came out of Upset and Ignore, and it was against Broxah's Gragas if he ends up taking that pick. And it was so bad that Ignore had to take Lantern level 1 because you fear the level 2 gank that Broxah likes to do for his bot lane.
You know, it's funny because Mikyx randomly getting caught out in game one, now insta-locking Thresh. It's almost like him and Hylissang have swapped places. This is what you typically expect from the Fnatic support, who seems to be showing way more consistency throughout playoffs, but we will see the Xayah now locked in for Fnatic. No real surprises, tried and true strategy from Fnatic, and while many may say that they funnel onto specific picks, if it works, Fnatic believe that they don't need to change it.
This is the thing, we've talked so often about what have Fnatic changed, what can they bring into this series versus G2? Well, if they can just do the same thing and keep winning, they don't need to have any of these inventive picks. They don't need to look for things like Mord and Pyke in the bottom lane. G2 here gonna ban out the Jax. Bwipo will not get his hands on that. Sejuani taken away from Jankos. I'm sure he's smiling, although Grabs probably isn't.
Now we're going to see if the Kled is also going to hit the ban bench, or if Wunder's going to get his hands on that pick again, especially with the Jax being taken away, probably going to free it up. It means that if he gets the Kled, he can look to roam and not be punished so hard by a champion like Jax that scales so well in the lane.
I wonder what supports G2 could look to ban away. Things like Braum or Alistar should be considered to be taken off the table. Both pretty solid matchups into the Thresh. Pyke is of course still up and available, a bit more of a skill matchup if Fnatic want to go for it, but they have a lot of options right now, and G2 are going to keep those options open. Their focus is on securing a better winning matchup for Wunder in the top side of the map, and I think that's smart because when we look back to how Fnatic typically play, they do not usually play through the top side of the map. So if you can get a winning matchup for Wunder, you can just leave him isolated and he will come out on top of that matchup. So I feel like that is the direction that G2 is heading in right now.
Well, we will see the Morgana locked in here for Fnatic. That's their bottom lane all rounded out. G2 immediately lock the Jarvan. Could be Sylas mid, of course, so that Jarvan can go towards the jungle. And once again, it's Wunder on his Kled.
I want to speak quickly back to the Morgana. I agree with you. It feels like we are looking at a very safe, pushing-oriented bot lane with Rekkles and Hylissang, so they're recognizing that G2 might want to attack that bot lane again and bringing things like the Black Shield and the pushing power that these two champions bring to kind of diffuse that situation. Oh, I would love to see Shen.
Okay, we're going to get the Renekton. So another comfort for Bwipo. Definitely not a weak matchup, but it is something that Wunder did play into Bwipo last week. And Broxah did not give him that much support in the early game, in Game 3. But to be fair, it didn't matter, because Nemesis was sitting at 4-0 coming into 15 minutes. Rekkles was in a similar position, and in that Game 3, Fnatic were in a position to secure the victory over G2 Esports, and by picking a very similar draft to what they did in Game 3 against G2, they're looking to get Game 2 in this series.
I mean, the reality is that you're looking for champions that spike very hard off of 1 and 2 items. These games go so fast, you don't really need to be that concerned with scaling potential. So just like the Jax Renekton, as soon as he gets Spear of Shojin, he does become an absolute monster, and the game should be short enough that he never really does have that fall-off moment.
I do feel, though, that for G2, they have a lot more scaling options this time around than they did in the last game. So if it's as skirmish heavy as it was, G2 have way more options to come back into the game. Things like the Kai'Sa, the Sylas, the Kled, all work extremely well the later the game goes on. So I feel like the G2 have just given themselves a few more options this time around.
Well, we'll see if they're able to use any of those options or if Fnatic will go to match point in this series. After a dominant Game 1, they've changed up their draft just a little bit, but it's still very much the Fnatic we have seen so many times before. G2 need to find a way to fight back, and they think they can do it through this Jarvan for Jankos. Oh, for now, though, we're going to pass to Youngbuck and an interview.
Thank you, guys. Youngbuck, tell me about drafting red side against G2. What is the plan here?
The plan is to adapt to what they're going to do. We knew they were not going to pick Pyke again, so we knew it was probably going to be a solo laner, and we just wanted to match it really early in the draft so that we can keep our options open later on.
Well, we'll see how it goes now. I think you noticed the amount of fans cheering for Fnatic today. Can you please let them know that the same mistakes won't happen twice?
They will not happen twice.
You heard him. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Lawson.
So much enthusiasm.
Confident words from Youngbuck.
Joey.
I mean, this wasn't the game they made the mistakes in, though. That's next game.
But this was a very similar draft. The only differences were Hylissang was actually on the Thresh and Broxah was on the Lee Sin. So a little bit more pick orientated, but you can see that with Fnatic's draft, they do have some team fight options, but it spikes very hard in the mid game. Around 1, maybe 2 items is when the Akali and the Renekton really come online. And I'd love to see Fnatic actually invest more resources towards the top side of the map. Get Bwipo into a more favorable position, because Rekkles and Hylissang in this matchup is very safe. You don't have to be afraid of a Kai'Sa Thresh, and I don't think you have to try and snowball.
I completely agree with you, Vedius, which is why I actually love to see Broxah starting on the bottom side of the map. A very common trend for Gragas is that they'll start top side, do a first clear, then back for their Predator. So Broxah is already setting himself up and getting a Ghost Leash from Bwipo here to disguise where he's starting onto the map and potentially look for a gank top side.
Wunder, he won't have information on where Broxah is, but he will see Bwipo getting late to lane. He will do that fake leash, give the impression that he did support Broxah. Jankos now going for the level 2 gank. Very common on solo queue Jarvan players. Let's see if the MVP can pull it off.
Nemesis still has his flash. Caps looking for it, jumps in. Nemesis flashes away early. Jankos wasn't able to find the connection. Bwipo and Wunder trading in the top lane. That Cold can do a huge amount of work, and Wunder is off Skull for the moment. Jankos is looking top.
Have a look at this pathing from Broxah. He went from blue into top Krugs. There is no vision towards the top side, but he's in a position to support his top laner. But now Bwipo has no flash.
Bwipo burned his flash, Wunder flashed away, and now Jankos is on the way. Broxah's on the top side of the map, but can he get there in time? Bwipo trying to get away, doesn't have the slice and dice and doesn't have a life left. G2 strike first.
And that's clever pathing that came out of Jankos and a very peculiar path that came out of Broxah. You can see what Bwipo is thinking. He has his jungler on the top side on the Krug map. He figures he can go aggressive like that, but maybe some miscomms as Jankos walks across mid lane, now in Broxah's face.
Jankos still chasing in here onto Broxah. That YamatoCannon doing a lot of work. Broxah's going to try and get across. Jankos flashes, but the blast cone is in the right place for Broxah. He will escape, but he has to run away from his own jungle.
Broxah was forced to disengage because Caps had the push in the mid lane. Remember that Nemesis was forced to burn his flash after the level 2 gank came out from Jankos, and this is the most damage I've seen done from a level 2 Jarvan in pro play so far this split in the EU, or the LEC rather. He's now going to steal away the red buff, he's now going to walk away with level 3, and Broxah is going to be put very far behind.
And it feels like, yes, Fnatic tried to hide Broxah so he could try to attack the map, or they were trying to secure him and save him from the potential cross-map play from Jarvan. Jarvan's love to go red, go over the Dragon Wall, and then take away the blue. Broxah started on his blue buff, so that wasn't going to happen. But Jankos just rocked into his jungle and took everything. And
it's not only about how far Broxah's being put behind, it's how far Bwipo's being put behind as well. He's 2 longswords down in this lane, and Wunder doesn't even need Jankos' help to take the kill in the 1v1. Wunder comes out on top. He's now 2-0 on this Kled.
We talked about this in the draft. If G2 can guarantee a winning matchup for Wunder, then this is a lane that Wunder knows he can come out on top of. Bwipo was too aggressive in the early laning phase, and now he's getting punished. But Broxah, tried and true, comes to gank bot lane.
Perkz trying to get away. The Lancer's there. Mikyx with a great flash. The hook doesn't quite connect, but there was a black shield on Broxah to save him if it did.
I think it was a little bit late on that black shield, so we'll see if Mikyx's keeping track of Hilly's fingers there.
Now we see Caps trading against Nemesis. Remember that the last time these two played up against each other in this matchup, Nemesis actually successfully solo killed Caps and he was put behind. Now the support of Fnatic's jungler is hit, they're looking for Caps.
No flash on Broxah. Caps still has a flash of his own. He jumps back in. The Kingslayer isn't enough, and Broxah will take the kill. Caps falls in the mid lane.
Yeah, Caps sitting on his flash. Broxah didn't really have to work very hard for that one. It's now top side.
Yeah, Bwipo's still trading in here. He's a Doran's and 2 longswords down. And finally he's going to land onto Jankos in that bottom lane. Broxah still looking around mid. Caps is teleported into mid lane, and with Nemesis backing away, you expect him to burn his teleport in response.
So the junglers have abandoned farming and are only ganking lanes right now. I think only 3 or 4 camps have been taken in total, and both these teams are just focusing on trying to find these early skirmishes. Not as many kills 5 minutes into the game, but we can see G2 edging out into a slight gold advantage as Jankos crests the level 4 mark.
You will have a potential 2v2 in this mid lane as Jankos is making his way up here, but Broxah shadowing Nemesis, trying to protect him.
Cap still has his flash, he's jumping in, doesn't land the abductor. Broxah was there in the right place. Jankos coming in. Won't be able to do too much right now, but you can see Fnatic are not willing to give up anything without a fight.
Jankos still yet to take his blue buff. He's now going to make his way towards that. Will finally secure the vast majority of his jungle, where we can see the top difference really starting to build out. Wunder with a 13 CS advantage over Bwipo, 2 kills in his favor as well, and about 1,000 gold in his back pocket. So definitely a much more comfortable position for Wunder to be in compared to game 1.
But now it's how many times can Jankos get back to this lane to punish Bwipo. As soon as he is level 6, he is going to have a lot more safety in this lane, obviously with access to his ultimate, as well as his flash about to come off of the cooldown. So Wunder needs to be really careful here. He tries to get the bounce back, but this is actually the perfect time to gank him.
Here comes Broxah. Bwipo going in, will land the stun, but Wunder is able to remount. Now Broxah's looking for the body slam, will connect. Wunder hits 6 and charges his way away.
Great utilization of the Kled ultimate to avoid that gank from Fnatic. He walks away with his life.
But That was so close, come on.
Yeah, it was called outplay.
Yeah, okay.
Great
Calculated.
stuff. Calculated indeed.
Strong assist from the minion.
Broxah does try to set up a gank top, but unfortunately it does not result in a kill in favor of Fnatic. Now we see Jankos making the cross-map play happen. He's standing up the Drake. He will get support from his mid and bot lane should any danger come to him, and he should be able to secure this one without much context.
So 7 minutes in, G2 will get the first dragon of the game. They have a 1,000 gold lead, predominantly sitting in Wunder's back pocket. He's finished a Tiamat now on the Kled, and it seems like whenever we see G2 and Fnatic play against each other, one team accelerates to an early lead, and here it feels like G2 are in the ascendancy.
It feels like G2 are going to have to tap the brakes a little bit for Jankos in particular. Maybe not for this top lane, but for Jankos in particular, he really wants access to his level 6. He's now gone back over the wall, picked up his red buff, so finally, there we go. He hadn't scaled it. I was like, please tell me Jankos scaled Cataclysm. He scaled it in base, it's fine.
Yeah, he did. And Jankos is a player that I feel has really been performing extremely well so far in this series. Even at the deficit in game 1, you can see how hard he tried to claw the game back for G2. He is the MVP of the summer split, and I feel like so far in this series, he's demonstrating what he's capable of.
Definitely showing us just how strong he can be. It took him so many attempts to make it into a playoff final. It was only spring of this year that he got his first title, and now he's showing us just how much he deserves to be amongst the best in Europe. Wunder dismounted Bwipo and him trade flashes, and that seems to be the state of affairs in the top lane for the time being.
We talked about Bwipo's ability that once he had access to 6, I'll hold the point though.
Nemesis will hold on to his life. Bwipo still trading onto Wunder here, and this is a little bit surprising. You thought that Wunder with such a gold lead would be able to trade into the Renekton, but Renekton so powerful early on.
Yeah, and again, back to the point, once Bwipo had access to level 6, that there was going to be a window where he could try to abuse that, but now without the flashes and with that ultimate on cooldown, I like his back timing right here. He shoves out the wave. He's like, I gotta wait for this cooldown to be back up before it's safe that I overextend again, because action should be coming back towards that top side to punish.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. If anything, I would expect Jankos to path up towards the top side of the map. We can see that he is on Krugs right now. There are camps available on the top side of the map, and they can just look for a kill onto a flash of Bwipo without the ultimate. Plenty of setup on one.
There could be the Lantern into a Cataclysm to force some sort of flash.
Ooh, you are right.
Rekkles has the ult. Hylissang will have the black shield if needed. Jankos coming in. There's a control ward in the bush for G2.
This is so telegraphed.
Yeah, Fnatic's spidey senses must be tingling right now.
I mean, Mickey's like hunting for the hook, swerving around the lane. You know that that Lantern's about to fly back into a bush.
And now Fnatic will see Jankos on the ward, so they'll know he was waiting just around the corner. They'll clear it out with the Oracle's lens, but not really going to do too much for G2. And it does mean that Broxah and Bwipo have a little bit of safety on the top side of the map for a moment.
For now, Bwipo will push out that wave, given that he knows where Jankos is. Also going to gain some control over the topside river, and they can secure this Scuttle Crab as well. So this was the risk that Jankos ran when deciding not to try and play through top. He will lose a little bit of control. But of course, Caps actually having the push once again against the Akali will force him back out, and Bwipo forced to play on the defense.
But now we have a very different game 2 from game 1, and I feel like a lot of that comes from Hilly having a pick like a Morgana versus his Leona. In game number 1, it was all action all the time, particularly in that bot lane. But when Hilly doesn't have the same tools like his Leona previously, you're suddenly seeing the game slow down a lot. Only 3 kills in 10 minutes. As I say that though, Broxah has slipped in underneath.
I'll be honest, my voice is thanking the teams for slowing down just a tad. Game 1 was a little bit of a too exciting for me, I'll have to say.
But I think the primary takeaway is kind of what the game state looks like differently when Fnatic's bot lane just doesn't hard muscle out G2's bot lane.
It does look like Wunder's hard muscling Bwipo out in this top lane. Bwipo's going to slice and dice back in. Jankos is on the top side of the map. Broxah on the bot. Nemesis and Caps trading in the mid lane, but Nemesis will be able to retreat back underneath the tower, and it looks like Jankos may have started up the Rift Herald here for G2.
They do have push on mid, with Caps making the rotation up. Teleport coming in from Perkz as well.
G2 are messing everything into the top side of the map. Bwipo trying to get the kill. The Meekop, he'll heal up, but he can't quite get the kill. And G2 with 4 members strong on the top side will get their 3rd kill of the game.
Beautifully balanced there by Wunder, just managing the tower aggro enough so that Bwipo is not able to find a return kill. Of course, Rekkles is left alone on the bot side of the map to secure plates, but G2, with this Rift Herald, should be in a position to find some plates of their own.
Yeah, it's kind of the 2-for-1 special. The fact that they got the kills top, they've now made the swap up there, so you can see that Perkz is going to answer back by also getting plates up into the top side on this Kai'Sa. Also picked up the kill. I think G2 across the map are very happy with their position.
I mean, that TP setup was actually very smart from the side of G2. Because on the reset of Perkz, he then TP's top as the Rift Herald is being started. Like, all of the pieces were in place to allow that movement to be very fluid and for Fnatic to have no answer. And Fnatic can't even secure many plays bot because Wunder then uses TP bot. Now he finds himself in a 2 versus 1, but they're not going to be able to push as fast as G2, who should right now be looking to use their Rift Herald somewhere else. But of course, the Infernal is now spawning soon.
And that's the thing that I really wanted to underline. G2 moving perfectly on time. They've shoved up the top side of the wave. Bwipo does have access to TP, but G2 can force him to use that if they start the fight for the Infernal right now.
Nemesis trading onto Perkz down to about half HP, and that macro series of decisions, a lot of people look at G2 and they say, well, their games are very bloody, they're high kills per minute. That doesn't mean this team doesn't know how to play the map. They are so good at working out exactly how to make the most efficient play, and I think we just saw it.
It feels like once G2's lane stabilized, that it's like a domino effect. Everything gets set up so beautifully, and if you give Jankos the space that his laners haven't completely collapsed and he's not trying to put out fires, that he can very quickly set up the map for 1, 2, 3 massive swings in favor of G2.
Oh, Nemesis is going in onto Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa steals away the ultimate, but he'll use it in response. Broxah gets Mikyx down towards the bottom side, and meanwhile in the mid lane, Kai'Sa is still chasing. Nemesis able to get away for the moment. Both of the mid laners have burnt their flashes.
So a bit of skirmishing back and forth between the two, but at the end of the day, Fnatic come out with a kill on the bot lane. They now, with their 3 members, are looking to secure some plates of their own, and G2 need to answer by moving up towards top and utilizing that Rift Herald, because Fnatic, with only Wunder here, should be able to contest the plates, but of course the wave not very big. Wunder gonna hold the line for now.
And again, the danger of trying to dive that Kled while Caps also has access to the TP. Meanwhile, cross-map, G2 continuing to make trades for plates. This might force Fnatic's hands to force something to happen here.
Mikyx on his way down here, and the teleport's coming from G2 straight away. So hard to dive at Kled. He'll just dismount, but now he's gonna charge in, and Broxah is the main target. Teleport in here, but behind by Fnatic. The Lantern will get Wunder to safety, and Bwipo just has to slice and dice away.
And frankly, Fnatic are behind the play here. G2 are still doing tons of damage up into the top side of the map, and it's only Nemesis to respond.
And this is just great TP usage from G2 once again. Nemesis used his TP to get back into the lane, but Caps held it, which meant that when that play happened in bot, he was in a position to assist his top laner, and Mikyx was on the path bot as well. It feels like that everyone is in the right place at the right time, and as you guys were talking about, the moment this game slows down, G2 just seem to be playing the map a lot more patiently and are getting many more advantages over Fnatic.
We talked about it in draft as well. G2 have a strong scaling lineup. Kai'Sa can shred through you late game. Kled can do unreal amounts of damage. So coming in to the 15-minute mark, when we start to see the lanes open up, when we start to see vision be the main priority for these teams, G2 having a lead is not good news for Fnatic.
But we also talk about the item spikes for Fnatic, and they are now reaching those points. We get a quick replay of what happened to Mikyx. He bases in a brush with a ward in it. Classic play that we very often see. He should have just based at the tower. He should have just taken the safe choice. Instead, he ends up getting picked off. But as we were saying, some of these core items have now been picked up for Fnatic, so they could actually look for fights. Once Bwipo and Nemesis hit level 11, I think that they're actually strong enough to be able to challenge G2, but they're going to go all-in.
Here we go. They know Caps doesn't have ult. He's stunned up, and here comes Broxah, but Caps steals away the ult and knocks Nemesis back into the tower, and Jankos is on his way. Nemesis has to get away, but the Cataclysm will chase him down and dunk him out of the fight. Broxah goes golden for the moment, but he is not going to get the gold medal for this play. Jankos, in the end, will take him out, and Jankos is impeccable on this Jarvan.
And that is a huge outplay from G2 there, and it means so much. At this point in the game, Fnatic are looking at their Renekton and looking at their Akali, and they're basically saying, okay, we're waiting for Rekkles to get more gold in his pocket to scale up onto items, so I need to play around my 2 side laners. They tried to make it happen with the Akali, they're outplayed on it, and now they lose so much time in that setup.
And we've got to think about how G2 even got to this point. And it all comes back to the early game and Jankos once again. This guy's pathing, level 2 Jarvan ganks. He makes one happen mid, he makes one happen top. This means that Fnatic do not have early lanes that they can play around and find advantages. Now, Wunder going for a dive, Don't think he's going to be able to pull that one off. But because Fnatic could not find these early advantages, it means that they haven't been able to challenge G2, and they have just been playing the map so much better, so much cleaner. So huge props to Jankos for setting all this up.
And speaking about playing the map, yeah, they're not going to get the dive on Bwipo, but they've got the wave coming in and the potential numbers that can collapse here.
Broxah is here. Jankos just forced away. Wunder still mounted up on Skull. It's pretty easy for him to get away. Fnatic looking for a play. Jankos face check straight into a binding. The lantern comes out. Mikyx misses the hook, but Caps is here. And with Perkz coming in from the side, Fnatic have to disengage.
So notice how G2 have actually brought Caps down to join the rest of the team. They have abandoned the top wave because they recognize that they can use a numbers advantage to either threaten mid or threaten bot. Even though Nemesis doesn't have TP, G2 are fine with this because they're saying we'll just make the trade happen. There's no point going top, especially with the Ocean Drake spawning in at about 40 seconds.
There's more valuable objectives on the bottom side of the map at this point where, again, Fnatic are trying to play out their solo lanes, continue to funnel gold onto the likes of the Akali, as well as make time for Rekkles to get towards that 3 items. It feels like, at least at this point in the game, as soon as Kai'Sa has one more item in her back pocket, you're sitting more in the power pocket of G2 than Fnatic.
Fnatic looking for those second items before they can really take these big fights, but Nemesis doesn't think he needs it. Charge away here. Wunder is going to chase onto Broxah, but Broxah's already being called out by Jankos. Nemesis trying to trade in the fight, but Perkz jumps in. Nemesis goes all the way onto the backline, and now he's in a 2v4. It's Bwipo and Nemesis trying to make the fight happen. Jankos dodges away. Wunder, the hook comes out for Mikyx, and Bwipo will all G2 take 2 in the river.
And G2 punish Fnatic once again. This was Nemesis trying to go in for a 1v1 against Wunder, and Broxah coming in for the collapse, but G2 read it. They set up the map state to allow them to respond. Look at that bot wave the Rekkles is forced to catch, and now G2 can convert this into the mid-tier 1. Perkz, 2 kills away from 1,000 kills. I believe Jankos is 1. The race is on between the two as to who can secure 1,000 kills.
Perkz is like, I'm the ADC, I'm ready to start grouping up and everyone to be funneling the kills into me. Come on, guys.
And he's hit his power point as well. Ginsu's and Mana Moon already on him. He's going to be incredibly powerful if these fights continue to go G2's way. But Fnatic now trying to set up vision around this Ocean Dragon.
So while this game can continue to be quite skirmish heavy, at this point in the game, G2 are stronger as the collective 5v5 if execution goes according to plan.
Hylissang. Oh, Hylissang, what are you doing here? This is not Hylissang, my friends. He was just sitting in the pit by himself, and G2 take the kill on a silver platter.
Oh, you don't like to see that. Oh, and with that kill, Jankos will secure his 1,000th career kill. Congratulations to the MVP of the summer split, Jankos. Beautifully done.
I'm dancing around, I'm pointing at the scoreboard. I'm like, come on, Betty, he got it!
And in the old chat, Wunder goes, was that 1,000 kills on a Jarvan? Really?
Well, most of them have been on Sejuani for him, or Braum. Now Nemesis trading into Caps as G2 continue to push up this vision line, take control of the Fnatic jungle. And I think in game 1 we asked, does it take a little while for G2 to warm up? Last week we saw it take 2 games before they hit their full stride. Here, it seems to have only taken 1 because we are 90 minutes in and they have a 5,000 gold lead.
And again, reminder to the state of the map currently as it is. G2, they have things like the Cataclysm and the Kled ultimate, although they are sitting more in a 1-4 formation here on this map. Because Kai'Sa is online right now, they feel really confident taking these fights, whereas Fnatic are happy to play around windows, more so around skirmishes and uneven numbered advantages. So they're looking for picks like this, because as soon as the rest of G2 show up, until Rekkles is ready, they need to disengage.
Who finds who though, Frost?
Yeah, G2 will take this fight. The hook's going to connect onto Bwipo. Broxah with the knockback, and now the fight really erupts. Bwipo pulled back, but Mikyx so low. Wunder trying to jump in. Jankos there on the front line as well, but Fnatic getting the TP in here by Nemesis, and another binding connects. The lantern will get Jankos out in time, and he may have got 1,000 kills, but that one dead is all Fnatic wanted.
And it was a numbers advantage in the end. Nemesis on the back end with the TP, but also a massive misplay from G2 about where they were going to find it. Could they find the CC, and could they delete someone fast enough?
G2 had push in the mid. They were starting to collapse to help support Wunder. Fnatic, though, actually were in a position, as Frost was saying, to turn that fight around. They started off by burning so much help off of Mikyx that G2 was immediately forced to disengage. And Jankos making the decision to dive on top of Rekkles was the wrong one, because it separated him from the rest of his team, which meant that G2 becomes divided, allowing Fnatic to then run them down and pick them off.
And G2 cannot afford to make these types of mistakes, because you can see how willing Fnatic are to turn this one around. You're now sitting at 2 items for Xayah. She's that much closer for the 3rd one, and you can't give away those free kills like that.
So we talked a lot about how the early game would go for these two teams. We talked about top lane priority, getting this Kled ahead. I want to think a little bit about how the next 10 minutes will go. What are we expecting to see these teams do, and how can they fight against their enemies' objectives?
I'd like to see G2 play this one a little bit closer to the book, slow things down, focus on denial of vision and setting up their vision rather than trying to shoot from the hip, thinking that they've caught someone and immediately jumping on them. As long as all of their dominoes are set up in a line, they are stronger grouped up, but it's when they get over eager and over aggressive and overreach into Fnatic, the Fnatic still have plenty of tools to punish them.
One of the things that I always find really impressive about G2 is how efficient they are. Whenever they set up vision, they don't waste time. They don't dance around the Baron. They don't just sit around waiting for the right moment. They actually just force the enemy into an error. And given they have all this control around the top side, we can see now Bwipo being forced to teleport out of this situation means that G2 is in an even better situation. With all three of their teleports up, Fnatic is going to be forced to respond to someone on a side wave, while G2 is also setting up for the Baron. So over the next few minutes, we're going to be seeing them now just threaten the Baron, force Fnatic to come to them, and G2 is going to look to utilize the 6k gold lead that they have in their back pocket.
And thank you, observers, for that replay of the TP that came out of Bwipo. It's again recognizing that G2 are in control of the majority of the map. You can see that with all of the pushed waves, you can see that with a lot of their vision, and you can see that with Bwipo's respect to TP out of a bad situation.
So we've talked a lot about what G2 want to do. Do it by the book, set up vision control, be efficient with how you push into the enemy jungle. But what do Fnatic want to do? How are they going to get back from this 6k deficit you mentioned, Vedius?
I think at this point, they actually just need to kind of take a step back and continue to funnel gold onto Rekkles. I know it sounds like a broken record, but when you're that close to the third item, that's all you want, because then you're going to feel more confident, but he might die.
Jankos going in, they're trying to turn it around. Jankos with the Cataclysm, but the Feather Storm comes out. Here's the redemption as well. Hylissang goes golden for the moment, but he's going to be caught up in the midst of G2, and Perkz is on the killing spree. Rekkles survives. Hylissang sacrifices himself for his AD carry.
Because you're trying to find safe farm for Rekkles to grab hold of, but nothing seems to be safe when G2 are on the map.
Oh, and it looks like G2 are actually looking to re-engage here, but Wunder's only by himself.
Gets to the lantern, the hook doesn't quite connect for Mikyx, but Mikyx is so good at saving people with that lantern. Oh no, Perkz stays around. Nemesis trying to jump onto the backline. He gets into the Twilight Shroud. Will jump away with the perfect execution, but Caps is on the chase. He doesn't quite connect. Nemesis dodging. The fancy feed. Caps goes down, and Nemesis survives.
And the misplay comes through from Caps. Nemesis is able to sidestep everything and walk away with his life. Teleports now coming through from G2.
Fnatic may have stayed around too long because G2 have double TPs. Wunder doesn't have the charge, but he's on the chase. Here comes Hylissang, Rekkles around the corner, and now maybe G2 have invested a little bit too much because Nemesis can jump in, and Broxah comes in from the back, and now it's a 4v5. Wunder takes out Broxah. The second kill goes down as Bwipo falls, and G2 finds 3. It's Rekkles and Hylissang. They have to do it all if they're going to save this, but Wunder's still on the chase. Rekkles trying to get the autos out, but he is done for. G2 in a 4v5 find the ace.
G2 shut down Fnatic, and Perkz finds his 1000th LEC kill. G2 are popping off in this second game, and they will make their way towards the Baron.
There was a single on the way ping towards the Inferno, and they said, nah, screw that, take the Baron right now. One thing about both these teams is if you give them an inch, they will take a mile. They know exactly how to abuse early game leads and how to close games out.
And we have to think about how Fnatic invested so much to actually kill Caps. They then wanted to try and gain control over the river, but the teleports were there for G2 to allow them to answer. We'll get a look back at this. You can see they just killed Caps, but Rekkles is stuck in the mid lane, and this is actually a 3 versus 3. Note how Wunder is soaking up a lot of the damage, and Perkz is safe on the back line. Then Nemesis comes through, and yes, it is a 5 versus 4, but again, Perkz is untouched. He has this very strong front line that he can just play around, and the moment Wunder remounts, it's all over for Fnatic.
And once again, the charge comes in. G2 not taking their foot off the pedal for a second. Mikyx going in onto Broxah, and Perkz is going to chase him down. Hylissang low, but Broxah's trying to get away from Mikyx and Perkz, and he cannot do it today. Caps gets a kill on the backline as Fnatic are just scattered to the winds. Hylissang trying to get away with the EQ combo. The smite is not quite enough from Jankos. Trying to do one better than Perkz, couldn't quite manage it. Meanwhile, the rest of G2 are pushing in the bottom lane, but the redemption for Mikyx! Redemption redemption from his poor performance last week, perhaps, as he finds the kill. Kai'Sa is pushing in bot lane, as you were about to say, Frost, but I still have control, as G2 have control of this game. The inhibitor's their next target, and Fnatic have to find some way to fight back.
I mean, it's salt in the wound for Fnatic at this point. G2 had the perfect wave set up, they took a fight, they rotated bottom, they kick in that inhib, and now they're looking to knock on mid lane store. This might be GG next.
From Baron to Nexus in a minute and a half, G2 are unrelenting. They will take 2 inhibitors, but they do not go for the win. They do it a little bit slower, they do it by the book. They back away and let Fnatic live to fight one more time.
They can take anything that they want on the map. They can fall back to Infernal, cash in, and all of that gold that they've got. Perkz answering Rekkles' incredible game 1 with a great game of his own. Now 5-0 and 7 onto this Kai'Sa. G2, they've managed to slow the pace of the game down, and they look much cleaner this time around.
And here we see Fnatic trying to contest the Inferno Drake, and G2's like, aha, this is the plan. We only actually wanted to fight you in the first place. And they just dive onto Fnatic. Rekkles is nowhere near the fight. They can just melt through the front line that is Bwipo. Fnatic gets split apart, and we have more fighting.
Mikyx puts down the box, Hylissang on the front line, but Perkz just deletes him from the face of Summoner's Rift. The hooks connect, the Cataclysm comes out, but Nemesis can't even kill the AD carry. And 20 kills to 4, Fnatic are being demolished by G2. The charge comes out, Rekkles running for the wins, but he's playing hide and seek, while G2 are playing League of Legends. They're looking for the win. Those Nexus towers are on their mind.
And it feels like this is going to be a series truly about the bot lanes. Fnatic had Rekkles and Hilly dominate game number 1, but this time around it's Perkz and Mikyx that hit back in game number 2.
G2 playing for the kills as they are wanted to do. It took them a while to warm up, but this is the G2 we saw at MSI. This is the G2 that dominated the regular season, and this is the G2 that will tie up the series.
G2 look extremely strong in game 2, and it just goes to show the power levels that these two teams are playing at. If either one is able to get a lead, they are just so good at controlling the game and bleeding out their opposition, forcing more and more errors. They are quick games, they are fast, and they are efficient, but they are extremely bloody.
And credit to Jankos, an excellent pathing performance in the early game to really throw a wrench in everything that Broxah wanted to do. He got into his face, he forced him out of the jungle, and ultimately, when you deny Broxah the ability to gank on his Gragas, it allows Wunder to go crazy on Kled in the top side. It allows Perkz and Mikyx to not be punished for their aggression on the bot side.
And it felt like all of the mistakes we saw in game 1 from G2, those holes had been plugged. They were able to get a strong lead for Wunder in the top lane. Their bot lane ended with, I believe, 1 death between the 2 of them. It was so much better from G2, and you do wonder how Fnatic bounced back like from something like that.
Well, I think something that's very important is they have to find Bwipo a winning matchup. We've seen it multiple times now where Wunder, when he has the freedom to play how he likes and he gets a little bit support from his jungler, he just runs away with the matchup, and there's little that Broxah can do to really turn things around. He did try to gank top lane, he did try to assist his top laner, but he could not convert it into anything, which meant that the early game just snowballed in G2's favor.
I also really like the pick of Kled into a team like Fnatic, especially when Gragas is such a high priority. One of the things Gragas super excels at is his ability to disengage from fights, but it is practically impossible to disengage from a Kled when he decides to lead the charge for his team into you.
Well, Wunder leads in the charge for G2 as they take game 2. We're going to hand it over to our analyst desk to break it down.
Thank you very much. 1-1 all squared up as G2 Esports take that second game over Fnatic. Now there is a lot to talk about. We've seen 7 games now between the 2 of them in the last 2 weeks. Now before we dive into everything, I'm having so much fun watching this series. The back and forth, the willingness of everyone to take place on this stage is making it fun to watch, but it's probably also forcing errors. I
mean, it's all about forcing errors when we look at these two teams. It's early game playmaking and not giving your opponents any room to breathe. We got a taste of it last week between these teams, and we're getting more of it today.
And this game was all about Wunder on Kled, but to set up his dominance over that game, the jungler, the MVP, Jankos, was so important, Deficio, and you wanted to show us why exactly.
I mean, I just absolutely love the way he starts the game. You know, level 2 ganking mid, gets the red buff on Jarvan. He knows Akali, you know, she can't do anything right now at level 1. She can't actually dodge a gank unless she can just flash it. So he knows he's just forcing flash. This gives priority mid now, which is important because it means Jankos can walk into enemy jungle and either invade for a kill on enemy jungler or go for top lane gank. Bwipo does not respect it, and he gets
He gets killed. I want to point out as well, in this scenario, that Fnatic fake leashed on 2 sides. So this is a very difficult read to make. And he knew the Gragas position right away, because after this kill, he chased him out of his jungle, forced his flash as well, and all of a sudden, Jankos does what he needs to do with the G2 team, is to control the whole map.
It was a very important start for G2, as just in terms of setting the tone for the game, because in Game 1, G2 was reacting to the offensive moves of Fnatic. In Game 2, with the stronger level 2 jungler, with that playmaking from Jankos, he said very early on that it was going to be G2 playing offense.
I think also just for Jankos in the series, the bans in the second phase against him were kind of weird, you know, like the Skana ban coming in. You called it a playoff ban because Skana is the kind of thing you can always pick on the big stage. It's so easy to play. But him then saying, Jarvan is a great pick here, you know, it actually fits him very nicely. He can play aggressive in the early game, pick it, and then pull off these kind of level 2 ganks now. Meaning going into the next game, second phase, you start thinking more, is there another jungler you got to consider?
And on top of that, after the work he did in this early game, they then had the choice, okay, what are we going to put our focus on? And we are going to dictate who gets fed in this game, and it's going to be Wunder. So Jankos, he went top again, and he really enabled his top laner to play out that game the best way possible.
Oh my goodness, well, this one, he didn't even need to be
no,
here.
Okay.
He could have maybe dropped the flag for an assist, because Wunder, after that first initial kill, just took over the game. And this one, this was the moment where I felt really Caps came online, because I felt like he underperformed the series up until this point, where he just outplayed the moment, and Jankos is there to deliver.
And it is a great point that so far Caps hasn't really done that much in this series, which obviously is a big positive in a sense for G2. They can still win without him, but they've shown that multiple times in summer. They don't rely on an individual player anymore. It is so much about the entire team, and I just think the fact that they get early advantage top lane, and then I want to highlight a more passive bot lane. Hylissang on Morgana is not able to perma-force these fights against Mikyx, so it becomes more passive, and the bot lane can say, we just farm. And that allows Jankos to play mid, and then of course top.
And it opened up G2 to play the map very well, especially around the 10-minute mark, when we actually saw Kai'Sa rotating up into the top lane. That was Perkz to get a quick kill, while Jankos was starting up the Rift Herald. Then coming off that play, Wunder TP's bot lane to deny a tower take on the other side. He's also the strongest member of the team, with an Infernal Drake spawning up. So that all of G2 got to play through Wunder and around him to pick up all these objectives early.
The early game for G2 is very important, because once they get to mid-game, they are the best mid-game team in the world. They are so good at using lane advantage to not stay in lane, but move to next objective. And the moment you, let's say you push top, the moment you leave top lane, there's pressure mid. So you get scared mid lane, then that translates to bot lane, and they just take over the map without even being there.
And I think, speaking about the draft as well, I felt like the Sylas pick is so fundamental, because it denies so many of these support picks for Hylissang. The Sylas first pick, all of a sudden you don't want to pick Pyke, you don't want to possibly pick an Alistar. These champions that have initiative, all of a sudden they picked the Thresh, they had Morgana into it, and all of a sudden bot lane was no longer explosive, and that's where G2 is happy.
That's where they are happy. Do you feel like they don't want the bot lane to be explosive because they feel they are outmatched versus Rekkles and Hylissang?
I think they just have confidence in their top side, because this time around, Wunder just took
turning it on its head. Okay.
Yeah.
No need
Because honestly,
to take the gamble,
Perkz smurfed this game.
Yeah.
Perkz smurfed this game.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get at, because last game we said, well, Hilly is just doing so much better than Mikyx and then the bot lane in these previous games, but that's not set in stone.
Yeah, well, I also think a big difference is the support counter pick for Hylissang, because in Game 1, it was Leona, which can punish mistakes from G2 so well. Exactly, and we saw those early kills. Morgana, not really the same thing. Yes, it is a counter, but it's more of a, we're going to stop the engage. We're not going to punish you, we're just going to play safe around that bottom lane. So Fnatic weren't able to make those same waves in that area.
Now, we've seen good things from both teams. That's why it's a 1-1. Thank you, Sjokz. So let's start and look forward. We've now seen 7 games between these two teams in the last 2 weeks, and it's pretty hard for me to predict what's going to happen or who's going to step up, because they have so many good players and so much control of the games that they are when they have a good early start, rather. Right. So what can we expect here going forward?
Well, when I look at the 3 Fnatic wins and then the game 3 in the series last week, when it was actually very, Fnatic favored for most of it, I keep looking at Fnatic having multiple picks that can force engages. Global pick like TF is one of them. Thresh, it was from Hylissang in that game. Leona in the one we saw earlier here today already. I want to see that from Fnatic. I don't think you should actually try and play slow at all. I don't think you have to. I want the explosive bot lane. I want something where you're constantly forcing G2 to take these skirmishes against you, because then you can catch them out multiple times.
For sure. I think just the fact that they are no longer doing these creative level ones, creative invades, creating situations where they are fighting as three, because this is something that Hylissang and Rekkles always were confident in. They were willing to pick a worse matchup because they knew they could set up the ganks, maybe with the Braum, even into the Thresh. It is on paper a worse matchup, but all of a sudden you have so much more setup. When you have that setup, all of a sudden Fnatic look like a different team, because they can take that pressure and spread it across the map.
I think a huge blocker for Fnatic is actually their jungle pick so far this series. We saw the Sylas in Game 1, Gragas in Game 2 against a Jarvan. If you're trying to make these early level invades and try to make these plays, you need a stronger jungler. That's why we saw problems in the top lane too, because Bwipo is over fighting.
Can we get a camera on Yamato right now?
The Lee Sin, huh?
Yeah, I want to see
there
the Lee
we
Sin.
go.
Yeah, cover the eyes, because no one wants to see Game 2 again from Fnatic.
Also, get your leg not go any higher. That wasn't very okay.
Oh, I cracked my
All right, keep it PG-13 over there.
Oh my goodness.
Oh no, the pants broke.
I'll send you the bill. I'll send you the bill.
Oh no, we're gonna have to take a break soon because there's a wardrobe malfunction. Oh my gosh. The final thing I want to hear from you guys is the fact that last week we saw 2 games in Fnatic's favor, and then after, in that third one, G2 taking over and then completely taking off. Could this be that this just is that, but earlier than last series, being G2 woke up, and this is what we can now expect for the rest of the series?
I think it's very possible, because we did not see the same mistakes from G2 in this game that we saw in game number 1. But at the same time, if Fnatic are able to change some of their things in draft, go for more early game fighting, then they have the tools.
Yeah, I mean, I think Fnatic still have a ton of things they can do. Go back again to the super aggressive bot lane setup. I think Mikyx has shown that you can punish him early. That is probably the safest way, or the easiest way for you to get early leads.
Final thoughts, Yamato?
Well, I think when it comes to, we talk a lot about what Fnatic can do, but honestly, I feel like if G2, all of them are in form, it's just a different level of a team. We see them underperforming every now and then. If they continue to become better and better throughout the series, then there's no turning back. And I'm just hoping that Kled will be banned because, it's just a monster.
Gotta take that away from him. The summer final is well underway as G2 and Fnatic prepare for Game 3. Don't miss it.
Broxah's on the top side of the map, but can he get there in time? Bwipo trying to get away, doesn't have the slice and dice and doesn't have a life left. Stunned up, and here comes Broxah, but Cap steals away the ult and knocks Nemesis back into the tower, and Jankos is on his way. Nemesis has to get away, but the Cataclysm will chase him down. Bwipo and Nemesis trying to make the fight happen. Jankos dodges away. Wunder, the hook comes out for Mikyx, and Bwipo will...
Right, the main. I will go in, maybe. Lantern. I have flash flow. Kai'Sa's carrying. I can look here. Kai'Sa's carrying. I ult in 3, we can go. Keep going.
He puts down the box, Hylissang on the front line, but Perkz just deletes him from the base of Summoner's Rift. The hooks connect, the Cataclysm comes out, but Nemesis can't even kill the AD carry. This is the G2 we saw at MSI. This is the G2 that dominated the regular season, and this is the G2 that will tie up the series.
You don't have a chance against me. I can calculate 90 trillion moves in advance. Not fair. Not fair.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Ready for the finals?
Experience the LEC Finals in Athens with Shell V-Power.
Again, we want a dose of this right now. It's KDA. I'm Morgana, spin a blaze.